Hello ladies and gents, I'm DKD6.
And I'm Nexus of Ice.
And welcome back to DeeKay Nexus Discussions. This is episode 2 and today we're talking about Halo 5 and the controversial news coming out of 343 about the lack of split screen and couch side co-op and that sort of stuff. So here we go. Okay, so here we are, we're on our second episode. We haven't thought of a better name, so we're still stuck on DeeKay Nexus Discussions, but as you know, that's subject to change. So I'm here with my good friend Nexus of Ice, and we're going to be discussing this topic. So what's up, Nexus, and what's your take on all this?
I think 343 has been kind of, lax with their voluntary information when it comes to how they're going to be handling a lot of the multiplayer. A lot of the community as a whole have been saying, "Hell, what is Halo? Halo is about just multiplayer in the same room, and that's a big deal. And that comes from the two major topics that we're going to be talking about as far as the function of the game, which is multiplayer. The loss of the local campaign split screen, which is kind of a travesty, and the loss of local split screen multiplayer, like for instance, playing four players, on a map on the same Xbox on the same TV, without having to worry about anything. That's not even here, along with the unfortunate loss of LAN as well. We can't actually hypothetically hook up 16 Xbox Ones on a local network and at least play a game. Worst case scenario, if they're really wanting to worry about graphics processing, we can only do one Xbox per player. Well, they won't even let us do that apparently. That's another thing that's the community has been pretty kind of shocked and upset about that 343 is doing.
Yeah, it's the first time ever.
Yeah, that's a huge deal. And some people say, well, that those features are what make Halo Halo. The thing that I specifically want to talk about, I know you're probably a little bit more versed in the multiplayer end of it and the LAN setup, but the thing I specifically feel like something's been stolen from is the local split screen co-op. I mean, that has been a lot of fond memories of having a buddy over. Hey, come on over. I just got a new Halo, or hey, we got Halo. We have a free night. Let's just plow through this and go in on it and take it out. Sitting back on the couch and playing, next to your buddy, that's a lot of Halo memories for a lot of people. And what 343 is telling us is that that's gone now. Why? Is it graphics processing? Is it them not going to have to put in development for it? A combination of that. Who knows? But the fact that they don't seem to have even entertaining the idea is a little disappointed.
I think it's a little bit more than a little bit disappointing. I mean,
yeah, it is.
It's a travesty.
You're right. And what's weird is I think that they're not purposely keeping everyone in the dark up to this point, because I don't think they want to be called out on any BS. Like, for instance, what happens if they say, oh, well, we'd lose horrible frame rate problems or we can't run everything at 1080p. I think that's what they're afraid of, that they're not going to make that golden 1080p 60 frames per second mark if they do any sort of split screen.
I don't know why that's such a big deal nowadays. Anyways, it never used to be a big deal. I mean,
yeah, well,
gaming used to be about fun.
Don't forget. In the early 90s, you had bits. Now it's all about, can you make that 1080p and 60 frames per second? Which console can do that better? And one's now the other. I mean, what's your, as far as, I guess, console wars and what they have to do, what's your take on that one?
Yeah, I think people listening to this can already tell that we're quite upset about this, because there's kind of like a somber tone to both our voices, especially compared to episode 1 of this DeeKay Nexus discussion thing that we're doing. It is disappointing. I'm extremely disappointed. I just don't see why they couldn't, when you're playing split screen, why couldn't they just keep it at 1080p and drop the frames down to 30 frames per second? As long as they told people in advance that, yeah, the game is 1080p 60, but if you're playing split screen, it drops it to 1080p 30. I think people would have been okay with that if they were just upfront about it and if they just came out and said it. One thing is that if they were to drop it down to 30 frames per second when playing over Xbox Live, so if there's two of you, so you and one of your friends sitting on a couch playing split screen and then going on to Xbox Live to play competitively against other people via Xbox Live in the world, I think the 30 frames per second would be a disadvantage in terms of you would have a disadvantage compared to all the other people that you're playing against who are playing at 60 frames per second. So I understand that maybe shouldn't have been an option then, but in terms of playing single player campaign with a friend of yours and having that at 30 frames per second, that shouldn't have been a problem because it's not disadvantaging you in any way because you're not playing competitively, you're just playing for fun with a buddy. So it shouldn't be an issue, but for some reason they've just omitted it from the whole game. Do you want me to talk about the land stuff a little bit more?
Well, I did want to touch on the technological basis of what they're doing. It because of that concept of 1080p 60 frames per second. If they're trying to always hit that mark, I think that's a major problem with their performance, and that it's probably going to be the reason why they're just cutting out all these features. We're spoiled nowadays. If you guys haven't, if you guys are old enough to even remember playing, let's say, the original GoldenEye on Nintendo 64, one of those first console games, I can guarantee you guys do not remember the horrible lag that you got, and the frame rate drop if you played 4-player on that. It was like, we're talking 10, maybe.
I remember that. That's terrible.
10 to 6 frames per second when something really bad happens. And I think that is one of those things that gamers have now forgotten is there is like a give and a take, guys. You can't have it all. But if you do want some extra, at least, features to your game, you're going to have to give up some maybe visual functions. As a gamer that enjoys local multiplayer and local co-op, I think, 10, 15 years ago, I don't think consoles could pick and choose between resolutions, to my knowledge at least. They couldn't do the quick scaling or anything like that that new ones can do. Like, for instance, if you're taking a game that normally would run at 1080p 60 frames per second with one person, that's single player mode, or a one person on Xbox Live, that's just fine. But I don't think anyone's going to be playing super competitively, or at least who's going to be sitting there sharing a screen super competitively in a local setting. That mentality, in my opinion, isn't going to be there. So you don't have to worry about that. If players want to just have fun with their buddies next to it, I don't think they're going to mind, a frame rate. I think me and you are both at discussion. I think we would prefer a better frame rate and a little bit of less resolution. Heck, as long as the gameplay is smooth, I would even take 720p and 30 frames per second just for a good, solid gameplay with 4 people on an Xbox, for instance, minimally.
Yeah.
I would take that function. That way I could have the function, because it's not like I'm going to worry about seeing every little bit of detail when my buddy's next. I'm going to be talking to them. I'm going to have fun. It's I think they're worried about performance over fun value.
Yeah, I just want to touch on something that you just said about how the game scales and whatnot. Do you remember how they got around this issue in let's say, for example, the original Halo Combat Evolved on the original Xbox? It was quite interesting how they did it.
There were frame rate drops in that too.
Yeah, there were frame rate drops, but instead of scaling from whatever resolution it was, they never scaled it down. There were frame rate drops in certain areas, but the main way they got around it was Did you ever notice that when you're playing single player, so you have the full screen to yourself, you could see Master Chief's reflection in things, and as soon as you went to split screen, there were no more reflections?
Well, Bungie has been known for stripping down some visual features
Yeah,
in
and I
split
was
screen.
completely okay with that.
This is
And
Bungie too.
yeah,
Uh, uh,
but I was fine with that. I just don't see why 343 couldn't take a similar approach.
I think because it's supposed to be their flagship now. There's no,
Yes,
this is the first Halo Xbox One game. Like Reach, for instance. Reach is a perfect example of what you're explaining. If you've ever gone into Asylum, for instance, which is the Sanctuary remake on
yeah,
Halo Reach. The one thing you'll go into if you go in the single player mode on that multiplayer map with just one player on one Xbox, there's foliage, there's, the foliage is moving in the wind, there's all this other, you can see extra detail.
yeah.
If you put two players in there, all that grass, it's actually just a flat texture. They did clearly take out features and stuff like that when two people went on the same Xbox. So
You see,
yes,
I was fine with that. At
and
least the feature was still there.
I am too. I'm just fine with with taking, it's like, well, they did that to at least allow the feature, and it's acceptable. Like as long as they try, I'm fine with that. As long as the gameplay's there, it's fine. You don't need to make it look like a, star-studded gem every single step of the way if, you don't have the features available that your series is known for. And
Yeah, I
again,
think
I think people are getting spoiled with that. And heaven forbid that a game comes out that, oh well, yes, you get 1080p 60 frames per second, yeah, but I'm sure that people will take to Twitter and saying, or either the fanboys that love Halo that want to see that at everything at 1080p 60 frames per second. I'm God, I hate that term, that phrase now. Just that those two stats suck. And then the haters of the console or the opponents are going to say, "Ha, I can't." Well, these are games have done that. They've had frame rate drops. They've had, graphic capabilities downsized a little bit to accommodate for actual gameplay features. That's a give and a take in development. But it seems like that game developers now are just saying, well, we have to polish, 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 and keep to this bar. The bar isn't a slider anymore, unfortunately, and I think that's one thing that's bringing it down.
yeah, I think I don't know who it was. I've forgotten the website name. It'll come to me. But there's a certain YouTube channel. I really can't remember what they're called. I'll link it in the description if I don't remember. And what they did was they analyzed the footage that was shown from the Halo 5 campaign during Gamescom. And that they concluded that it wasn't locked at 1080p. They concluded that it drops down to 900p or something, and it's it's like an unlocked resolution. But I don't know if that's going to be the case in the final product. I mean, you can't really judge it on something that they just showed at Gamescom.
What's weird about the difference between 900 and 1080? Although you see, oh no, you're going from 3 digits to 4 digits. That is not
You
that
don't
much in
even notice it.
comparison. No, like, yes, if you have it side by side and you're looking at a pixel on pixel and you squint and look, you can probably barely tell it. But I guarantee you that if you took a 900p picture, put it up and somebody's like, how do you like this 1080p game? Oh, it's great.
Yeah,
They're
they would
mentally
never
not
know.
going
They
to,
would
they would
never know.
never know.
There would never.
And I think
There was an interesting thing on Linus Tech Tips recently where they put out a video saying is 4K really worth it, and it was such an interesting video. And I suggest to anyone listening to this goes and watches that, because they showed that whether they filmed in 4K or 1080p, when they uploaded to YouTube or when they even looked at the images and compared them side by side, you couldn't really tell the difference. And the other interesting thing is, even if the game is natively scaling from 1080p to 900p or whatever, let's say that it's native running at 1080p, and then it scales down to 900p. Your Xbox One is still outputting and upscaling to 1080p. So it's not like your TV suddenly says 900p instead of 1080p. It will always say 1080p. It's just that the game is running native 900 and then being upscaled. And it's just a way of saving some, processing power to keep the frame rate up. Because I think we would all rather that the game drops the resolution slightly to keep it locked at 60. I really want to see Halo 5 locked at 60. I don't want frame rate drops. The thing is,
like,
you can notice.
I would rather, at least if they did have a feature or a point, instead of having a frame rate drop, bring it all the way down to 30 if you can't have a variable frame rate. I would at least be happy. Give me a solid frame rate, because you will notice a frame rate change.
Exactly, that's
or
what I
then
was
you'll
just about to
notice
say.
a lower frame rate.
Yeah, you can't. I don't want it to be a variable frame rate. No freaking way. It needs to be locked at 60. That is the standard that we have come to expect in the year 2015. I mean, PCs are doing hundreds of frames per second. And these consoles, yes, we all know that the PS4 and the Xbox One are hugely underpowered. But at the same time, I think that the minimum that we should get is locked at 60 frames per second with a variable resolution, because you can't notice the resolution changing. You really can't notice it. But if a frame drops and it drops from 60 down to 55, even for a split second, you notice that, and that breaks the game in a way, and it ruins your enjoyment of it.
You really do notice the changes in the frame rate more than the resolution. And the only reason why, I guarantee you, if they just launched Witcher 3, for instance, on Xbox One, had the variable frame rate.
Did it?
Was that the one? I believe that was a big deal. I think it was Witcher 3. They don't quote me on it, but I do believe that was a big deal when Witcher 3 came out. PS4 is like, oh yeah, we're getting 1080, but Xbox One saying, well, we're gonna have 1080 to like 900p variable frame rate, to have a smoother running game. To my knowledge, I think from the reports is that the game does look running smoother on it because of that variable frame rate. And I think it's just locked at 1080p on the PS4, which gives it a little more for like frame jumping. But I do remember that was one of those first variable frame rate games that at least caught my eye and my attention in the current generation consoles. It was very interesting technology. But going back to the topic of why we lose these features, hopefully those frame rate and resolution changes. I really do hope that the developers will say, well, is it worth it? Yeah, it's worth it. Let's just drop it down to 30 and run it at like 900 or 4-player, and give these guys local multiplayer again, because that's needed, man.
I think we should have expected the LAN thing though, because they took LAN play out of the Master Chief Collection.
They have a quasi LAN. They allow you to do a local network, but it's like kind of like an always-on DRM LAN option.
Oh, God.
Don't run your game the way the Master Chief Collection works, to my knowledge, is you can have a LAN function, but the games and the players basically have to all be logged into Xbox Live properly. The console has to be logged into Xbox Live, and yes, you can run it off a local network for that LAN function. So it does have a functional LAN, but the LAN function can only be unlocked if the console is signed into Xbox Live. If I'm explaining that right, at least.
That's weird.
Yeah, it was really weird, and people were like, over their heads at that one when it was explained, and it was just okay, whatever. But yeah, technically, at least for as far as functionality goes, it does. But why it still has to be signed in Xbox Live, who knows? I guess to verify game content, or who knows what.
Unlock achievements, maybe.
I have no idea.
Achievements are unlocked via Xbox Live nowadays.
I guess, but that was the weird workaround. But then Halo 5, they just completely took that out. But just weird as it is.
Oh, God.
As the single player goes, though, the only other mention that I have is that they said that they're taking out split screen co-op. I have not heard if they're taking out co-op entirely. Have you heard anything about that?
No, it will have online co-op. It just won't
We'll
have
have online.
local co-op.
Okay. Okay. So that's because at first I was kind of thinking that they did that just as like a story reason, because it looked like there's a lot of scripted events, or there are a lot of scenarios to where you don't know if both players or all four players can react the same way about these cinematic game events, that sort of thing. I
Yeah.
think that they were going to have a lot more story-driven environments with the story, and they would just cut that out. But that's at least good. You at least have somebody's playthrough campaign with you. That's cool.
Yeah. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to read just the first paragraph of this article from Digital Trends, and I think it would be a nice way to kind of sum up exactly what Microsoft and 343 have said. So here goes. It says, if you want to play 343 Industries' upcoming Halo 5 Guardians with your friends, they're going to need their own copy. After first confirming that there would be no local cooperative play in the campaign, 343 and Microsoft have now made official that the game will not support split-screen multiplayer or LAN play of any kind in any of its modes. 343 head Josh Holmes dashed fans' hopes for local multiplayer in response to a question on Twitter. So yeah, the thing is, the problem I have with Josh Holmes is that he just won't come out and say it. I mean, someone said to him, are you even gonna bother to clarify? And his response was, all multiplayer modes use full screen on dedicated servers, including co-op, campaign, arena, and warzone. He just said that
Yeah,
they all use full screen.
that was beating around the bush.
It's just like, just come out and say it. Stop making yourself look like such an idiot. Just, why don't you just come out and be honest and say it? Halo, I mean, I've been playing Halo since I was in high school. You know, I still remember the day it came out, the first day. And there's a lot of us like that. Halo has a hardcore fan base, and it's the fan base that's keeping this game going. It's because people care about this franchise. People have grown up with this franchise. People who, it's just mind-boggling how they can just take this IP and it just feels like they're raping it. It really does, and it's really, really annoying, and it's getting under my skin because it should not be treated this way, and the fans shouldn't be treated this way. We shouldn't be lied to. I loved 343 when they first were created, and I had high hopes. They had the best talent in the world, and it was so good. It's like the passion was there, and you've witnessed this with me, where my passion towards 343 has kind of faded away in the last few months. It's so disappointing, and I hope it's a great game. I'm sure it will be a great game. I'm excited to see where the story goes, where Master Chief goes, and all of that stuff, and the whole deal with Cortana. But at the same time, I just feel like the game and the fans are being let down by a development studio that just doesn't care about the right things anymore. I just think that they need to stop concentrating on the competition. They need to stop concentrating on money. They need to stop concentrating on Call of Duty, for example. They need to concentrate on Halo. They need to concentrate on the fans, and they need to get back to the roots of Halo and do what made Halo great in the first place. Don't try to change everything all the time just to compete with the competition. Do what you do best, and just go back to your roots and do what everyone wants you to do. That's all that's important here. That's all they have to do, and it's really, really bugging me. I feel like shouting on this microphone, and it's 4 a.m. and people are sleeping and I can't. And that's... I don't know, you better carry on before I say something stupid. It's just... 343, if you ever listen to this, and I doubt you ever will, just stop doing what you're doing and just do what the fans want you to do. You're in that role because of the fans. The studio was created because of the demand from the fans. Just stop screwing with the franchise and do what's right for the franchise. That's all I need to say.
To touch on the fact of 343 employees and these developers kind of not directly answering. I'll play a little bit of an advocate for them. That they do sign NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, and that basically does tie them. If this information has not been, green lighted for being released officially by Microsoft or the higher ups, they literally can't say anything. So I will at least give them credit for it's not declared that they can't say this information, that they can or cannot say this information. We don't know that. But
Okay. Then
that
I just want
still
to.
and that still doesn't say that whoever is in charge of that isn't handling this properly. Now, if you're, pointing it directly at like said developer, you don't know who he's has clearance for to say or anything like that. I wish that was the case, but as we know, he doesn't own the franchise. He's still an employee. He still has to hold by rules, and that may suck. Which when you hear about some of these answers, it seems like they're not directly answering you, but he's quasi answering you to still kind of cover his butt without just ignoring people.
Yeah, but
Um,
they've got a history of doing this though. Even after the Master Chief Collection came out, they were so tight-lipped about things.
do you know the
You
difference between 343 and Bungie though? If you look into it, again, I know you and me weren't there. None of us were. But the vibe that you got and from what if you read into how Bungie was acquired by Microsoft, Bungie had a lot of independence.
yeah, yeah, sure they did.
And yeah, they had their own autonomy for the most part, and how they pretty much interacted and expressed their games, how they told what they told to the fans. At the very least, Bungie felt a lot more open about trying to give information, or you didn't feel like when they were like shot a direct question, they weren't just kind of shuffled to the side. They said, "Well, I can't tell you that, right?" They were straight with you. I can't tell you that yet, but it's coming, or something to that effect.
Yeah.
That's how Bungie handled it, because at least from my point of view, they had all these so much autonomy that they could handle that. They were trusted with that. But when what I've been seeing with 343, which is one reason why I haven't been a huge fan, is that 343 seems to be a lot more, at least under the influence of a lot more corporate entities, which
Yeah, I was just about to
unfortunately,
say they seem a lot more corporate than Bungie ever
exactly,
was.
which it may not be their um, development team's fault or anything like that. That just may be the structure and the culture of that development crew. So, I guess be aware of that.
Yeah, taking everything you just said into account, yeah, I know that my little mini rant a minute ago was aimed at 343 as a development studio, but yeah, 343 is owned by Microsoft. Microsoft is 343. 343 is Microsoft. So that rant is aimed at whoever makes these decisions not to disclose important information to the fans, whether it's 343 themselves or Microsoft up above or both. I just think that the fans deserve to know. And right now and throughout this whole episode, kind of sounds like I hate 343 and it sounds like I'm hating on Halo. I'm not hating on Halo. I mean, I love this franchise, and the only reason I'm so upset about this and the only reason I'm so passionate is because I actually care. It wouldn't bug me this much if I didn't care. So yeah, I just want to make that clear before people
Well,
think I'm just bashing the damn game.
speaking of disclosing information to fans, I think this will wrap up the at least this Halo discussion for this round. Is I don't think, to my knowledge, 343 hasn't disclosed any information on how the super expensive collector's edition is going to be
Oh
able
no,
to
you
get the
didn't just
physical
mention.
copy.
You didn't just. Oh no. Oh, my head's gonna explode. Okay, you go
So,
first.
well, the so far 343 hasn't really said anything that they've said. Okay, we'll let these people swap it out for a physical disc. They really want one. I haven't heard anything about how. All I've heard is theories. I've asked local retailers, hey, what's going on here. I haven't heard concrete evidence. So the only thing at this point is I can discuss plausible scenarios of how the purchasers of those collector's editions are going to get their physical disc, and we don't even know if it's gonna what type. Is it going to be the standard retail? Is it going to actually have the limited edition disc art? All that stuff. Um, I'll list some of my ideas, and I'll let DK finish up with his feelings on the subject. Hopefully that will be short, but some of my quick ideas are one, you can swap it out at the store. I don't know what kind of deal they have with any retailers or anything like that. I did know that way back when Halo 3 came out, at the limited edition, and that was the one in the tin. Unfortunately, the tins were designed poorly, and what happened is the little like plastic tabs that held in the game discs popped out during during transport, or they got bent easily or something like that, and the disc like right around in there became so scratched. Um, like the North American game giant GameStop, the standard procedure was if somebody with a limited edition comes in and says, my game's all screwed up, we were to literally just open up a regular edition game, hand them the disc, take the bad one, and go with it. I don't know how they ate that amount of, or what deal they made through that, or anything like that. But if they had to, eat those damaged games, that's a whole lot of money. I'm sure somehow, they discussed it with Microsoft about it, but that's one function. You can do it in the retail store that you do it at. How that's going to go about? Well, if that's the case, I'm sure the retail store will have information, but I haven't gotten any concrete of that. The option 2 that I'm thinking is that somehow there will be maybe a Microsoft program to where you'll have a registered game, maybe like you have your digital code or something, and you sign into your Xbox Live account, saying, hey, we see that you have a collector's edition code. Do you want a physical disc for it? And they'll send you the disc and maybe take off the digital copy off your account or something, for all I know. So that's another option. But right now, the release is coming up, and they haven't really clarified this information. So unfortunately, I wish 343 would tell us, or could tell us. This is part of that withholding of information. You make a base statement saying, hey, this is what's going on. But you say the what, but you don't say the how. And that's important for a lot of fans and customers that actually want this product. As far as having to deal with it, how are you feeling about it, DK?
Okay, I have a few things to say about this topic, and I'll try to be quick. I don't think this was handled very well at all. First of all, the decision not to include a disc in the collector's edition of the game is just insane.
I agree.
I don't think that they did not have any intention to provide us with a physical copy until people lashed out on Twitter, forums, YouTube videos. They did not have any. They did not have any aim or plan to give anyone buying a collector's edition a physical copy of the game. No freaking way. I think that the reason they went for the whole digital download thing with the collector's edition was because someone probably in 343 or Microsoft had a stroke and just pressed the wrong button or something. I don't know. But what I will say, and another thing which I think is stupid, is that you get a steelbook with the collector's edition, but you don't get a game to put in it. What is the point of the steelbook?
That was a big deal with a lot of those rants
what the hell were you thinking?
And videos that I was seeing. Yeah, and I agree that there's no logic to that.
Yeah, and the other thing was, I tweeted 343 numerous times. I tweeted Microsoft numerous times saying, why is it a digital download? Is there any way I can get a physical copy of the disc? It was just silence. It's just like 343 shut down. Microsoft just went tight-lipped. It just really gets.
Do these companies have like teams of like Twitter teams effectively to answer these things?
No, you just tweet the individual developers. So I was tweeting Bonnie Ross, Josh Holmes, Frankie, Kiki Wolfkill. I was tweeting everyone. I'm
sure they were getting thousands of tweets, man. So
yeah, but the thing is, I've tweeted Kiki Wolfkill before. She's responded to me every time. I've met Kiki Wolfkill, and she acknowledges that. And they've always responded before, but on this topic they just wouldn't respond. So what I think has happened here is that they went with the stupid idea of digital download for the collector's edition, which is just, don't get me started. And then there was a backlash from the community, as there should be. And now they're thinking, okay, crap, we messed up. How do we fix it, right? So they said, oh, and the other question I said to them was, okay, if it's a digital download, I'm collecting the game on the midnight launch. My internet isn't the fastest in the world. I want to get home and I want to play the game. So if it's a digital download, without the code, I can't preload it until the midnight launch. And then about 5 days later, they came out and said, oh, we're gonna sell the collector's edition 7 days early, so you can use the digital download code and preload the game. So I thought, great, that fixes the issue here. It's not perfect because I'm gonna miss the official launch party now. I've never missed a Halo launch party before, but now because of this stupid idea that they've come up with, I'm missing the official launch party because I'm picking the game up a week early. That's besides the point though. The point I want to make is that if they're providing me with the digital download code 7 days early and I redeem that code and then preload the game, will Microsoft later come out and say you can only request a physical copy of the game if you send us your digital download code? I don't think that this will happen, but I still need to know. Because if I go and use the digital download code, what's stopping them from saying, well, you've used the code now, we're not going to send you a disc, because you've already accepted the code.
Well, as far as like the logic behind forcing a digital download, don't forget, Microsoft and Sony, they're a part of that too, have been trying to push the digital-only distribution for a very long time.
Well, that was Sony's plan with the PS4 as well. They only changed it because of the Microsoft conference.
I'm aware of that, and a lot of people are if they do the research. The point is that they haven't forgot about it. I mean, they are trying to push it. It is what it is, man, unfortunately. If you think there's no reason for it, well, there is. If you think, oh, it's not a brain fart, they're still trying to go for that. That's a whole nother topic as to why. If you guys want to take the time to look it up yourself, it's a very deep topic as far as who gets money and where. But it will. I'm sure that has something to do with it. I guarantee you, these console developers and even game developers still haven't forgotten that digital download is the way that they probably want to go with their.
Well, apparently the new Nintendo NX will be digital only. That's rumor,
actually, they filed a patent. But
is that where the rumor came from?
Yes, there's actually been a patent filed by Nintendo. But you're forgetting that can be for anything, and specifically,
that's
there's no
though.
optical drive. It's very important too. It could be a cartridge based. Who knows? It could be
it's not going to be cartridge based.
What is a 3DS?
Yeah, 3DS. Yeah, but that's different. I mean, if
how big you can make a 120 gig micro SD card for dirt cheap now.
Yeah, true. I get what you're saying.
So
yeah, I guess that's viable,
and it doesn't need it, and that doesn't have to anything with the NX. So far, there's no connection with it, but that's off topic.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna finish up on this whole digital download fiasco. So what I did was I went to Game here in the UK. Game is the biggest retailer of games on the high street. So I went to them and I said, are you guys releasing the collector's edition 7 days early? The first time I went there, they had no idea. And then they confirmed, yes, it's 7 days early. And then when Microsoft came out and said, you can request the physical copy of the game if you're not happy having just digital, I went back to Game and I said, this is what Microsoft had said. And again, they had no idea. So the retailers have no clue of how this is going to be handled. I personally don't really think that 343 knows how it's going to be handled. I think the best case scenario here is if there's just a Microsoft program where they send you a little note saying you've got exactly what you said, Nexus. They send you a little note saying you've got a digital download copy of Halo 5 Guardians. It's the collector's edition. Would you like a physical copy? If you say yes, they post you a physical copy. As soon as you put that physical copy into your Xbox,
they're probably not going to ask you. They're probably going to say, they're going to post a random website. If they can get away with that, they're gonna do it. I really doubt they're gonna outreach to people.
All I want them to do is give me a physical copy, take away my digital license for the game, and just authorize the game via the disc in the optical drive. That would be as simple as that, and that's what I think they should do. Or before October, they still have the option, and they still have the option of just including a retail copy of the game with the collector's edition and being done with it.
Yeah, I think, what is it, September, they'll probably start producing these things, right?
Yeah, so they can still just bundle a retail copy of the game with the collector's edition, and then we wouldn't be having this problem. That would probably be the easiest thing. It's just leave the digital stuff. If someone wants a digital copy of the game, they can buy it via Xbox Live.
Yep.
So yeah, that's my take on it. I just think the whole thing is crazy, and they just really need to sort this out and offer up some clarification on this issue, because it's ridiculous.
Well, I think that wraps up our Halo 5 discussion.
Oh yeah.
Hopefully the community will be very outvoiced in what they want and what they think is needed. Hopefully developers will listen. As far as the future of a franchise, well, if you're a fan, keep on supporting it. I still do hold the idea that if you honestly don't like where a franchise is going, don't buy a game. It may suck, but if you honestly don't think it's worth your time or money, don't support it. Hit it where it hurts them most, in their wallets. You actually have a voice, and that is your wallet, man. Don't like something, don't buy it. And because if this doesn't turn out well, I may not end up buying Halo 6 at all.
Yeah, I think everyone is going to give this a chance. They can't afford to mess this up. The game has to be brilliant. It just has to be. They cannot afford to screw this up.
Yep. Well, thanks for listening, guys. We'll be probably coming out with a few more episodes shortly. We're definitely cutting down on our time compared to our first 2.5-hour episode. This one actually ran far over what we were exceeding. Hopefully we'll eventually get it down to that nice 10-15 minute digestible bites that we're going for. If you have any suggestions on topics that you want, please post in the comments below. We'll make sure to listen and read them all as much as we can, at least. I give it to you, DK.
Cool. And in closing, people, I just want to say that in our last episode, which was 2.5 hours long, we did make a mistake, which was pointed out to us by a member of the community. We alluded to the fact that Quantum Break is coming to the PC. It is not. I just want to make that clear. Quantum Break is an Xbox One exclusive, and it's only on the Xbox One, and it is not coming to the PC. So sorry about that. We do try to keep all the information in these shows factual. We usually don't make any mistakes. It really bugs me if we do. So I just want to clear that up. Yeah, if you have any questions or comments, please post them below in the comments section. And if you want us to talk about any topics, again, do what Nexus said. And yeah, I think we're done with this one. We'll have more episodes coming up in the near future. Sorry for the drought of videos recently. Had some personal problems to deal with, so it's been a little bit dry. Anyways, if you liked the video, please hit like. If you disliked it, please hit dislike. Leave a comment below, let us know what you thought. I'm DeeKay.
And I'm Nexus Ice, signing out.
Thank you for watching, guys. Bye.